Hello again. Well, I can't believe another month has gone past. Model Rail magazine has arrived again, and we're going to do a review of this magazine. This one is number 326 and it's June 2024, and it's called Unsung Heroes. It's talking about the industrial traction, so these are always great little model railways that you can make, and it has a little 060 shunter there and some coal wagons. Down the bottom we've got some reviews of the new Revolution Class 59. We've also got the Acura scale banana vans that everyone's talking about, a Helgen Class 37, and it looks like Hornby's Black 5 comes under review, so that'd be quite interesting. We've also got Keeping It Together, repainting a loco without taking it apart. Well, I think that's a bit of a risky thing to do. I wouldn't do that, but it's quite interesting. They've got a piece about that, so let's see what's inside here and we'll check it out. George Dent is the editor as usual. He's one of the most hard-working people in model railways, I think. This time he's actually talking about prices, which is very topical. A lot of people are talking about that at the moment. And he has a picture here of an old Lima locomotive that he's still got, which he's made into a fictional War Department model. That's a great way of keeping old models running. I know what that Lima model looks like. Not too great, but it looks as though he's done a good job there. Let's see what else there is. So opening the box always has a double page spread from a particular model railway. It's teasing you with a layout that Kevin Mitchell has built in a very small space, and going by this picture it looks pretty good. Lots of greenery there and lots of textures as well. Looks quite interesting, so we'll have to look out for that when it comes. So the news is always the most interesting thing for me, and we open up with the Backman Goes Large with narrow gauge, and down here we have about Harman Hobbies winning a prize. Up here we've got Helgen's all new Class 26 getting closer. I do like a 26 and they've got different options. It'd be interesting to see what that's like when it comes out. And they're also improving the 02, which is in progress still, and the Class 20. We did see something about that in the most recent Helgen release video. Down here we've got the affectionately called skateboards in colour in O gauge. This is quite an interesting model and very useful, I think, for modern day modelers who are interested in doing O gauge. So up here we have the 88, which is breaking cover. It's a DAPL model which has been released through Rails of Sheffield. Quite an interesting model. I do like seeing the more modern stuff, and the decoration on that looks pretty good, so that'll be one to keep an eye on, I think. Here we have a Helgen model which Rails of Sheffield have commissioned again. It's a Class 28 Kobo, always looking pretty sad, that locomotive, but it's returning thanks to Rails of Sheffield. Here it's all about Rapido's small fishy vans. I haven't done a roasting video about that. I'm so tempted, I might do it one day. But these vans will obviously be up to Rapido's usual standards. And something a bit different down here, Irish Railway models are producing this little grain hopper you can get in a pack of 3 as well. Revolution have got a nice little spread here. So they're talking about the N gauge Class 66, and they're also talking about some London Underground stock here in N gauge, which will be very small when they come out. Quite interesting to have a look at that as well, something a bit different. For modern image modelers, there's an announcement here from Revolution about a 5-car auto carrier set. So that's more for modern image modelers, and this is going to be coming in N gauge and 00. That's quite an interesting wagon set, that one. And we also have their steel carriers also in N and 00 gauge. Kitmaster have got some new models out. I don't think these are particularly revolutionary, but they are in O gauge, which will certainly help out that scale. And some new arrivals from Hornby. We've got the latest HST and TT scale, which a lot of people have talked about already. We've also got some 00 here, including this little shunting locomotive, a Ruston. Lots of people are doing these little shunting locomotives at the moment. I guess that's in response to people complaining about not having enough space for a large run. But that said, they do have the Mark III coaches here, which you do need a big run for. So Kurnow Model Railway Centre is having an open day, and they also have a wagon available, limited edition. Osborne Models have added a handful of extra parts for their O gauge, including these coppers on the beat, which looks pretty good. And this is talking about a 00 layout, which is in a crime drama series, which is on BBC, only in Wales though, which of course I've talked about before. I'm still not sure that's a real place. So up here we have DAPL with some wagons that celebrate the Dad's Army theme. Made up wagons again. I'm not keen on this kind of stuff, but it might appeal to some people. And we have some snack machines in the Bachmann Scenecraft range. Now that's actually a very handy item to have in modern image railways, because they always have those. Some books, I never read books, but you might, so there's some there. So then George Dent goes on to talk about a new soldering block that's available he's been trying out, and a bending tool as well. And these two items are definitely quite interesting if you're into brass modelling. There's the usual amount of little figures you can get here, and these are actually available on TT scale, so the range seems to be growing a little bit there. This is quite interesting, Boxing Clever. It's some loads that you can have. It does actually say it's a Ukrainian company that's producing these, so that's quite amazing considering their current situation. So they have the "and finally unusual scenes." I don't think this is particularly unusual, it's just a locomotive which isn't where it should be, but it's still modelled there. I don't know, it's a bit weird. Anyway, let's move on. So some usual news about the real railways. Great to see Blue Peter running of its own steam at last, and some other interesting items to have a look at. So as usual, George has been busy with his modelling and he's been doing some scenic buildings. This is really well done, I think. He does these very well. It really looks very realistic there. Dave's still working on his Mark IIIs. I think we heard about that last month. Looks like he's putting some people in there and some lighting, so he's still got a long way to go, I guess. But he's been at that for quite some time. So Ben's piece is always quite an interesting topic to explore. In this one he's talking about how small shows are vital and a really good thing to have, and I would tend to agree that I've been to a lot of small shows myself and really enjoyed it. I might even go so far to say I prefer them to the larger shows. And Ben goes on to urge you to see what events are taking place nearby, and if you can, go along and support them. And I agree with that as well. But that said, the small shows I've been to in central Scotland have always been absolutely packed, so it looks like they're very popular as it is without Ben having to try to promote them. But good on him that he's done that. So now we come on to the star layout of this edition of the magazine, and it's this one from Theo Thomas, and it's a small colliery, which is hard for me to say for some reason, in the British Railway steam era. And it looks pretty good. It gives you an option to run things like a narrow gauge train, you can see it at the top there, along with your full scale models. Got the Prairie Tank here, it's a very popular model, that one. And he's got the usual 16-ton coal wagons, I think they're 16 tons anyway. Some of his weathering is a bit questionable, but it's good that he's done the weathering. But the overall look and feel of this layout looks pretty good, I think. And that continues over the page, and even though this is a colliery, he's got the grass really well done there. It looks very good, actually. I like the flowers in it. And the background scenery also looks really good. So coupled with that, things like this building here is really well done. It sits perfectly in the scenery, not on top of the scenery like sometimes you see. And even small details like this little shed here has been done very well. And I also like the little miner there just contemplating life. What's good in this shot is all the little details he's put in. The line side details here, the point controllers, and even this power station up here. All looks really good. It comes together very well. And the final shot here shows that it does actually have a station here as well with some passenger services. It's quite a good layout, this one. Well done, Theo. That looks pretty good. Now we move on to Workbench, which is mostly George Dent. He's a really hard-working guy. And sure enough, here he is doing this modification to this locomotive where he's repainted it without taking it apart. You're going to have to rely really heavily on masking tape. You can see he's masked up quite a lot of stuff here. I sometimes have problems with this. I don't like the lining in it, and I'm always a bit disappointed in it. You sometimes end up just doing it by hand. But it is quite an interesting result that he's managed to get here, and with some weathering like he's done up here, it really does look pretty good. He's also added in some extra parts as well to improve the looks of this locomotive, and it does look quite good at the end of the day. So in this one he's talking about modifying a shunter to make it look more prototypical by shortening it and lowering the roof. This is always a really scary thing to do with your models because you've really got to go for it, and sometimes, you know, you mess it up. This one he's ended up with two of these, one in red and yellow. I think the yellow one looks better here, but this is certainly not for the faint-hearted if you're thinking about doing this kind of modification to your locomotives. So Peter Marriott is back again with his water scene, and he's been at this for a few months as well. He's now got a kit of a little tugboat which he's added some extra details to and painted up really well, and it does look really good. And Peter goes on to talk about how to use grass mats as a base for realistic scenery. Now this is something I've done as well on previous layouts, and it does work really well. It's a good shortcut. It gets you up and running pretty quickly, and then you can add extra things onto it to make a really convincing depth of foliage and different layers, as you can see up in this picture up here. So next up we have a layout by Pete Matcham, which I think is in O gauge, and he's showing how you can get this into a small space and look quite good. It certainly looks very impressive from this spread, although I think this character up here could probably do with a repaint. The locomotive looks fantastic though. And here we even have a 37 and a van which has been nicely weathered as well. The 3D printed guys also look pretty good, and the track work looks absolutely fantastic. You can see from the photos that this is quite a small layout, but yet it's been done pretty good, and it also gives you the opportunity to run something a bit bigger and enjoy that scale. It's something I'm considering doing. He's even got a MacBook sitting here controlling the show, so this isn't a cheap thing to do, but it certainly looks quite convincing as a model. And up here you can get an overview of the layout. It's not that big at all, and it looks as though it fits on a shelf quite easily, but that just goes to show that you can get quite a lot of interest and you can get going in this scale in a very small space. He's done some really cool, interesting things like the setup here with the wiring. So well done, Pete. I think you've shown us just what can be done in a small space in this scale. So now we go back to 00 scale, and we've got this one here from Phil Mason and Ian Willis. And it's modelled on the Derwent Valley Light Railway. Maybe I've said that wrong. Anyway, it's in the early 80s. You can see it's got a shunter on display with a wagon and what looks like, I think, a coach at the back there. Again, a lot of weathering has happened here, and this model looks as though it's been repainted into this livery as well, and the digger looks as though it's covered in salt or something. I guess it's meant to be cement. There's some really cool things like how the wall is falling down here. And here you get a better view of just the dirt and grime of this layout. And if you ask me, I think this green is a bit bright and it doesn't have enough weeds in it. I would certainly dull that down because it doesn't really go with the rest of the layout. And I really love what he's done in these little bunkers here. So we've got another 37, you're probably sick of seeing these now. So a nice selection of motive power in mostly the blue and yellow era. And you can see his layout down here. It's not the biggest of layouts, but it's certainly allowed for a lot of operational interest. Okay, we're now on to reviews, which are always quite interesting. So we're starting off with the Helgen Class 37O, and we're seeing it here in the DRS livery. This one is in O gauge, coming in at just under £670, and it certainly looks pretty good. I think they've captured the essence of that locomotive very well. As is usual with the reviews, you get a bit of a fact file here, which is very interesting to learn a little bit of history of the locomotive. And the summary has the pros as the look and fidelity, the high quality finish, the plug and play DCC interface, and the excellent performance. And the cons, not a lot. I hate when they say not a lot, because what does it mean? I said this last month when I reviewed the magazine, they're still doing it. Not a lot. Anyway, a terrific tractor. So this might tempt you if you're into O gauge, but you're going to have a big layout to run this, obviously. And from O gauge, we're now going to N gauge. We have the Revolution Trains Class 59, a very handy locomotive to have. You can see these all over the network in the UK, and you can also see them in Europe too. These ones start at not too bad a price of £155 if it's DCC ready, or just under £260 for DCC with sound. Looks pretty detailed here, and the finish looks not too bad at all. Again, the fact file of the Class 59, it's even got my favourite colour, the EWS one, I quite like that. But you can see you can get this in a whole range of different colours, so fair enough they've made it in different liveries. So up here we have the pros, looks and fidelity again, attention to detail, high quality finish, excellent performance, superb DCC sound package, and cons, not a lot. Dear me, stop doing that. Final verdict, fantastic, so well done. But it says a hard act to follow. Look out for a review of Dapple's N-Gauge Class 59 in next month's issue. So that's quite interesting that two companies are making the Class 59 in N-Gauge. I wonder which one's going to be the better of the two. If you've got any guesses, put it in the comments below. Is it going to be Revolution or is it going to be Dapple? Time will tell, I suppose. So here's the good old Hornby LMS Black 5 in 00 scale. Now, a lot of people have said that this isn't that good and it's been a bit of a disappointment. I wonder what they're going to say here. Usual fact file here of this iconic locomotive, and over here the summary box says that the pros are looks and fidelity, attention to detail, high quality finish and good performance, and the cons are the running plate's not 100% straight and the lack of a flywheel, but the final verdict is excellent. But that kind of goes against what a lot of people have been saying, especially about the high quality finish, where many people are complaining that the finish isn't really that good. And there are other issues apparently with the lights at the front of the locomotive, and possibly some problems with the connection between the locomotive and the tender. Perhaps not evident in this review model. I don't think I would call it excellent. So Akura Scale is up next with their Southern Region banana vans. An interesting subject, but it is just a little four-wheeled van. We've got hundreds of these, and it seems to be every manufacturer this year is doing these teeny tiny little vans. Here in the summary box we've got the pros, exquisite detailing and finish, impressive attention to subtle variants, smooth runners, fills a major gap. Not sure it does actually fill a major gap. We've got plenty four-wheeled little brown vans. And the cons are nothing. And they have a joke, final verdict, top banana. That's pretty funny. Now returning to N scale, we've got a brake van. It's Graham Farrage's SECR Dance Hall brake van. Very iconic one, this one. It looks pretty good here. It's got some nice handrails. And it also has some good printing on the side as well. Looks pretty good. The pros on this then are fine detail, impressive build quality, high quality finish, and runs well at just 9 grams weight, which is really light. And they have no cons. Exquisite is the final verdict. So that's quite an interesting model. And it comes in at £35, which I think probably is a fair price for that. And we have Bachmann's TTA 00 scale tank wagon up here, coming in at £37.99. What I like about this is that they've kind of weathered the printing on the side of it and put some other details on top, so it looks very prototypical. And the pros say accurate and attractive model, excellent weathering and smooth runner. The cons, some areas lack the finesse of newer releases, and still a great model. So I guess this must just be a re-release of a previous model which you've just done this extra decoration on. And then it looks as though they've just stuck this one in at the last minute, the Hornby L and MR Royal Mail coach. This one coming in at £40. It says important prototype. Is it really? But attractive livery and a smooth runner. The cons, a few minor blemishes on our sample. Final verdict is a useful addition to Hornby's Era 1 range. I don't know why they didn't put that in this normal summary box. Maybe they just had this at the last minute to add in. But this does look like Hornby's just regurgitating their models again. And I remember on Sam's Trains review of these models, him talking about the character up here not sitting quite right on the seat there. So here we have Hornby's Railroad Plus Class 101 two-car DMU. This one coming in just under £135 in the Strathclyde Transport livery, which I think is a very good livery. And I think they've managed to capture it pretty well in this model. They've got some pros here, good all-round looks, excellent level of finish, smooth runner, popular prototype and good value. And the cons, a few detail compromises and huge couplers. I don't like the huge couplers either. They look like couplers from the 50s. And the final verdict, great to see the X-Lima 101 return. But really, do we really need this? That means this is a very, very old model and it's coming in at £135 just for a colour change. Not so sure about that. So over here they've got about Bachmann Scenecraft, Station and Canopy. Not a big fan of Scenecraft stuff, but this says it captures the prototype structure as well. Pleasing level of detail, nice hand painted finish, and the cons, some of the canopy posts slightly out of kilter. So that's not too good, I think. Gosh, those adverts seem to go on and on, they never get any smaller. But anyway, we're through all that and we've got Present Your Case. This time it's a North British Paxman D2/1, an 040 diesel shunter. And we've got a lot of diesel shunters. This one does actually look quite interesting, but I'm wondering how much of a market there would be for this one. So finally it's the back scene with Chris Lee. He not only rants about something crazy, he starts off by saying, did you notice how quickly the 70th anniversary of the Tipfield Thunderbolt came and went? Well, no, because I didn't even know about that. And you know what? I don't care, because it's 70 years ago. Then he goes on to talk about a layout that he's managed to palm off on someone else and some work he's doing on another layout. And then he goes on to rant about how storing packaging is becoming a problem because everything comes boxed in different size boxes. It's a strange thing to talk about. I think you complain more if the packaging didn't actually support the models through transit and then you got smashed up models, but hey ho, there you go. So there you have it, that was Model Rail issue number 326. Interesting reviews there, some of which I didn't agree with, and a lot of it I've actually seen online before it came into this magazine. The layouts were okay, but for me nothing that really inspired me or made me think that that was unique or something special. The news section was okay, but the rest of the articles were a bit mediocre I think this month. So hopefully next month it will be a lot better. Anyway, that's just what I think. Let me know what you think of this magazine in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts. And if you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, it really helps this channel. I'll be back with another video quite soon. Thanks for watching this one. See ya!